Are you looking for an internet talk radio station for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are two women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, station manager at PHECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details.
This episode of the Energy Stoners Cafe is sponsored by Passionate World Talk Radio and Lillian Caldwell. PassionateWorldTalkRadio.com.
Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain.
This episode is an excerpt from my public access TV show, Talk with TQ, recorded at the Bean Runner Cafe. Welcome to the Energy Stoners Cafe. My name is Toni Quest, and I'm really happy that you're here. I like to interview the most interesting people I can find on the planet. So grab a cup of coffee, sit down, relax, and listen. You're going to find that these guests are so intriguing, you'll wonder why you didn't know about them before. Hi, I'm so happy to see you here. I am so blessed to be able to interview some of the most interesting and talented people that I can find on the planet. Tonight, I have very special musical guests. The name of their group is called SlideAttack. They're jazz trombonists, and I think a lot of people don't always appreciate the trombone for jazz, but I do, because I've heard them play. They're sensational. Their names are Alan Goidel and Howard Levy, and they're here to talk about their journey. It is a fascinating one. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm glad that you made it.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thanks so much.
It's my pleasure. So I know that both of you actually recently retired from your regular, I'd say, day jobs, even though I see you as professional musicians just in itself. And you recently retired from day jobs as outstanding educators. And I've heard a lot about the kind of things that you've done as educators. How are you feeling right now, during this COVID situation? It seems that you retired right at the beginning of it. What's your experience been like, and how have you been able to incorporate what you love into this holistic, this whole global experience?
Well, I retired in June of 2019, so right before COVID hit, in the following March. With all these, hopes and desires to dive. I mean, I never stopped playing music, but to dive back in with everything I had to really be solely focused on that, although I still teach privately. Unfortunately, COVID, put the brakes on everything for the whole planet. I mean, everything stopped. So I tried my best to try to stay busy, write music, record at home on my own, and I did some remote projects with friends as well, and we can elaborate on this later, but we eventually put an album together.
Oh, yes, we will talk about that for sure. So how long have you guys been working together, Alan?
About 7-8 years now, I think. Okay. We started this project about then, 7-8 years ago, and it's grown quite a bit since then. We started with just a few tunes in the book, and we've reached a point now where I think we have over 50 tunes in the book. Some written by us, some that we found from other composers and friends have written for us. So it's been quite a journey, and it's still going. We're just kind of at the beginning.
When two musicians meet each other, it seems that when I've seen this with other musicians, because I've interviewed a number of musicians over the years, and what I always found fascinating is, from my point of view, is when musicians get together, somehow you just start to play, and then you find your simpatico, is a word that I like to use. Did you find like an instant synergy between the two of you?
Well, the two of us, we've known each other since we've been in high school.
Oh, okay.
So we met on a summer band there.
Just a few years ago, recently.
Right. We met on a summer band we were playing in, and then we went off to school. And after school, we both started freelancing in New York, and we reconnected. And we used to sub for each other, and we stayed in touch. And to make a long story short, one day Howard came up with the idea of putting a 2-trombone group together, so we decided to do it, and here we are.
How many people are in the group? Because I know on your website, SlideAttack.com, it says that you're a quintet.
5.
5. That's quite. I knew that. I remember that from high school, and it was so recent.
Piano, bass, drums, and 2 trombones up front.
Okay, who are you playing with usually these days?
Well, the regular group is the two of us, Hiroshi Yamazaki, Westchester pianist. He plays piano.
I've heard.
Right. Chuck Zurin, who is also a retired educator, he plays drums with us. And Michael Getz plays bass, and he is an educator as well, and he's still actively teaching a little bit, as both we are. And actually, I think Hiroshi's teaching as well.
And I'm fascinated with, you know this about me, Alan. I'm always awestruck when I hear people play music. And I hear you play music in your home. I've been to your home and I've heard you play with your beautiful wife, Dina Goidel, who's a singer, pianist. And when you put it together, I'm just like, wow, I feel like I'm with the cool kids. And no, really, from my point of view, it is fascinating the way, creative people tend to find each other. And the other thing I want to talk to you about, and I've wanted to talk to a few people I've interviewed about this, I am so struck by the fact that people in this, I'm going to age you a little bit, I'm going to date you a little bit. People in the baby boomer generation, I find the millennials kind of scoff at us from time to time. But what I've noticed is that people in the baby boomer generation, our generation, I've seen that what we're doing, and I'm including both of you as prime examples of this, we're taking our youth, okay, and we're bringing it with us into old age. Not that we're old, but we're carrying it with us into maturity. And I think it's fascinating because I've listened to your music, and it has still that like fresh, this isn't something I've been doing forever, but this is something that I always did well, sound to it.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I think with musicians, certainly with us, and I think with creative people in general, we're just big kids. And if you can keep that feeling through your life, you can stay fresh and hopefully current. But there's a joy that you want to transmit to other people when you play. So it's nice to hear that comes through.
It comes through. It
Right.
does, definitely.
I mean, it's just interesting, but we both have known a lot of people that older than us, and when we were younger, who we were inspired by, and who now, surprisingly, we're that same age now that when we first met them.
Yeah.
But I've known people that go, they're playing into their 90s. I mean, literally till they can't do it anymore because they love it. It's a reason to get up in the morning. They're excited about it. Yeah. I think that's the energy that music brings.
And perhaps the people, I think in our age group, we realize what a gift it is to have that thing in your brain that's like that creative synapse, and it always works. It doesn't seem to atrophy. It actually seems to get better.
As long as you keep using it, I think, and keep looking for that. And particularly with musicians, it's a collaboration between us, and you get that feeling from the other players, and you're communicating and talking to each other, in a nonverbal manner, and it's wonderful. I think you probably feel the same way with your art, because I've seen what you do.
Well, with artists, in general, I think that artists, we have like the synergy, that it's just there. I love the word simpatico, because I think it means more in that language, I think, than it does in the English language. Right. And when someone's an artist, I collaborate with musicians a lot. I'm collaborating in a visual piece with a musician. I'll tell you about that later. And it seems that we can think the same way. You've actually helped me a little bit, gave me a suggestion on a physical piece I had started, which is now in full throttle mode. And you gave me a suggestion about an element. There was a musical element in this visual piece, And I said, you know, should I make it wavy, you know, or you said, not quite so wavy.
I remember that.
Yeah, you do remember that. And I said, oh, wow, he's actually looking at it. And I was impressed with the fact, when I talk to people like you, that you can talk in that sort of abstract, you know, kind of airy-fairy kind of way. And you'll always understand what we're talking about, even though our disciplines are different. Sure. Now tell me about the album that you just released.
Well, it's called Road Trip. It contains 9 original tunes, 5 by me, 3 by Alan, and 1 by Hiroshi Yamazaki, and we're very excited about it.
It's quite a project. Yeah. We recorded it during COVID, so we had a few rehearsals at my house in the backyard because we couldn't really congregate inside. It was at the time when they were just getting a handle on what COVID was, and everything was still up in the air, and they didn't know, should, you know, do this or do that. It was all very confusing. So we played outside, and then it started to get colder, and we had to go into the garage. We couldn't go into the house. And we picked a studio where we could all be isolated in the studio.
How'd you do that? Tell me.
Well, each musician had their own separate room. Everybody's wearing headphones. Everybody can hear each other. And everybody has a little mixer where they can control the balance between the instruments so it sounds the way they want it to sound.
Fascinating.
With the exception of the 2 of us, we were next to each other in one room.
Right. Yeah, well, we were, maybe 6 or 8 feet apart from each other, something like that.
Okay, so you really thought it through.
Well, we wanted to make sure all the guys would be comfortable and that, of course, nobody would get sick.
Yeah.
So we, that was a big concern. And every day we went in, we were like, okay, here we go again,
How long did it take you to get yourself into like the vibe of the whole situation? Did it take like a warming up? Does it take longer to warm up under those circumstances?
I think we kind of just jumped in.
Yeah, we did the whole project. Well, all the recording we did pretty much in 2 days, 2 sessions.
I can't wait to hear it. I'm looking forward to that. Really, I really am.
You can find it at bandcamp.com. Just go to slideattack.bandcamp.com.
Slideattack.bandcamp.com.
It's also available on iTunes and Amazon and everywhere else you listen to or purchase music.
And it's called Road Trip by SlideAttack.
Right, and that's the title tune, which is a composition by Alan. Oh. A really, really fun tune.
Something that I wrote during COVID, not too long before we did this session, in an effort just to try to think of happier times and something that was light and fun, to try to get the listener away from all the pandemic nonsense and.
Yeah, the album has a nice pace. It kind of tells a story.
Okay, so when I listen to it, I'll feel kind of good inside.
I think so.
That's what the reviews were saying, that people had that.
Thankfully, we've gotten some nice reviews and a fair amount of radio play.
Oh, that's good. I'm so happy for you guys, because I know that it's not easy for artists to always get the recognition that you deserve. So are you doing gigs? Are you going and performing in venues at this point? How's that working out for you?
Well, we did some. Right now, with things changing over to inside, we're not quite doing that yet, but we're working on some other things, and we'll see what develops.
I'll just have to, say that to the audience that we're recording today at the Bean Runner Cafe in Peekskill, New York, which is really the place for jazz in the Hudson Valley. So Bean Runner Cafe in Peekskill, New York. I really love this place for a lot of reasons, because they do embrace the arts and they do embrace jazz, if you like jazz.
Absolutely. We love it here. Yeah. We've been lucky enough to play here. Some of our first gigs were right here.
Yeah, I was at some of those first gigs.
So we're very comfortable with the Bean Runner. We love it.
Yeah, and it's an artistic venue. They also feature an artist every month, a visual artist every month. And so it is a beautiful place to be. So what are your plans? I know the holidays are coming up, and I just think it's really important to get involved in attending creative events, music events during the holidays, because I think it's one of the times when people, in my experience, we tend to get along, even if we pretend to get along. It's a season of peace and giving. What are your plans for the holidays besides selling a lot of your road trip album.
I'm hoping that I can get out to Jazz at Lincoln Center. They do some wonderful things during the holidays, and so that's one of the things I've been thinking about doing. Yeah. And it would be nice if we could somehow pick up a gig or two. It's hard. It's hard with everything, like Alan said, going indoors right now. It's kind of tough. But, you know, it's a great time to just be with family and celebrate.
Do you play with the family? When you're with the family, do you guys like break out the horns and just start doing it?
We play at home, sure, sometimes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We just not that recent, but in the last 6-7 months, we got a grand piano in the house, as you know.
Yes.
So we play in the living room. It's great, and I
Yeah.
have guys come over, and we have sessions, and we play a little bit. I'm hoping to get to Birdland over the holidays. Some friends are supposed to come into town, and it's a nice place to go. But again, with our group, it's a larger group, and a lot of the clubs have been struggling for so long that it's a little tricky, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. And you both have family members. Like your wife, I understand, is an opera singer.
Yes, classical singer.
Classical singer. And I don't know if your children sing or do anything musical.
My son is a hip-hop artist and a college professor.
Oh, wow, contrast. I love that.
But he uses it in his work.
Okay.
He uses it in his work. He teaches school counseling, and he's done many things. His name is Ian P. Levy, and Philip. Ian P. Levy. So he's an MC, as well as he goes around setting up programs all around the inner cities, getting kids to express themselves through hip-hop.
That's extraordinary. I'd love to meet him sometime on the Energy Stoners Cafe, perhaps. Yeah, that would be great. That's very impressive. And your daughter is a jazz musician, a vocalist, and a trombonist herself, Kira Goidel.
Right. Yeah, she's at the University of North Texas now, finishing up her master's and singing there. We're going to visit her next week.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
We haven't seen her in her environment there since she went to school due to the pandemic.
That's a long time.
Yeah, so looking forward to it.
So it'll be a fantastic family reunion.
Yeah, be great.
Yeah.
Plus, I have other family that live out there, so we'll get to visit them as well.
That's great. It's nice to have family that's all over the place. I guess. No, it is nice to have family that's all over the place. I feel that way. I'm really impressed with you guys. I have to say, I'm hoping that I get to hear you guys play and see you guys play sometime during the holiday season between now and the end of the year.
Oh, that would be great. I should have let you know, but it was happening so fast. We were on Division Street a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
We played out by Rubens Cafe outside.
Nice. That's a great venue at Rubens. Yeah, he embraces the arts too, and I think it does. I think when musicians get involved, it does so much good for the local businesses, especially the restaurants. Right. With the warmer weather, it was much easier for them, I imagine.
People want to come out and hear live music. They really do. Because I played at Rubens the other night with a big band. And the place was packed. Yeah. This past Sunday night. Yeah. And we were inside, and it was packed. Every table.
Yeah, he brings in the crowd.
I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah. And people loved it. They were really enthusiastic. People were dancing.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm hoping that I get to see you during the holiday season on Division Street or anywhere.
Sure. Us too.
Birdland is a real great venue. Have you ever you've played there? Have you not?
We have not.
I know Kira has.
Yes.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, that would be so good. And I think they'll be asking you back for sure. I just want to say that people would think, because you guys seem so sedate, that if anybody who's watching this, you'd be shocked if you heard them and saw them in action.
Well, they have to check us out. They have to follow us on Facebook, go to our website, SlideAttack.com, go to YouTube, our YouTube channel. You can watch videos of us. You can listen to our present album, Road Trip, and our first album, SlideAttack. It's all out there.
And on your website, you have an itinerary on your website.
Yes.
Which tells you exactly where you're going to be and what you're doing next.
Exactly. And people can contact us through the website. They want to send an email, want to get on our mailing list so they can keep in touch with us.
Yeah, or hire you for a gig.
Sure. We do all kinds of gigs. It could be a house party. It could be outside. It could be...
Yeah, you played at my birthday party a couple years ago.
That's right.
That was good.
Any kind of special event, definitely.
Yeah, any kind of special event. So tell me how you got involved with the people that you collaborate with, that you play with on the album. Where did you find them? How did you all find each other?
Wow, that goes back a long way. I first met Hiroshi, I think, over 20 years ago. There used to be a club in Yonkers called the Femios.
I used to go there regularly on Friday nights to listen to live jazz.
Yeah.
Yes, I was a regular.
That was Al DeFemio's club. And towards the end of his run there, before he closed, Hiroshi was the house pianist for the jam sessions that he was having. So I used to go there and sit in. That's where I first met him. And then we started playing. I think I used to play with the trumpet player in Westchester, Kenny Lee, and Hiroshi was working with him. So we got to know each other that way. And he was available and interested when we put the group together. So that worked out nice. Chuck, I had met through teaching when he was teaching public school.
That's where I had met him as well.
Right.
So you guys were both band leaders in your respective schools.
Band directors, yeah.
Band directors. Yeah, and I know that at the end of the year, there's usually a big concert, and people are always talking about it. You worked at different schools though, not the same school.
Right.
Yeah, different budget. I just have to say it. Different budget. No?
Yes and no.
Yeah. Different schools, but the same job
school.
in different places.
It's pretty much the same job.
And same kind of demographics too, I think.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah, similar. How was that for you? Was it rewarding or frustrating?
Both at the same time.
Yeah, both at the same time.
How's that? There are ups and just like anything else. I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs throughout the year, but when you get to that concert and you hear the result of all the hard work and you see the look on the kids' faces and how thrilled the parents are, it all becomes worth it.
Yeah, did you find that your students enjoy what they were doing? What if you had I always ask this question, I have to, because I need to know. What do you do when you're in a class and it's a class of kids and you've got to take that elective, you have to take music, and there are kids there that are outstanding. You know the bright stars usually right away.
Right.
I know that's true with visual art. When you teach visual art.
Of course. Yeah,
and I'm wondering, and the ones that they're going to struggle, but you have to bring it out of them.
Well,
how does a music teacher, and now an art teacher
it's a tricky thing because, unless you want to say something.
Well, I was going to say it is tricky. I'm probably going to say similar stuff because we've been doing the same thing. But one thing I think that I always felt fortunate, since I was a band director, the kids that are there, they have to be able to play an instrument. So if they're still playing an instrument in high school, they have some motivation. Even if they're struggling, they have some ability and some motivation. And I always found if I structured it a certain way so that they could have a good time, and I felt as a teacher, really the primary focus was my connection with the kids. And if there's a connection with the student, then they'll do what they can do. And I found that there were students that came to concerts that had the flu, they had 103 fever, but they came to play because they didn't want to miss the concert and they didn't want to disappoint me or the others.
Oh, they didn't want to disappoint you.
Well, that's what I was told
I've
by
had
some.
experience like that with a senior who, had checked out, the year's over, but they owed me a final solo and I chased him for it. And I said, look, I do not want to give you a bad grade. And I've had students come in and said, look, I'm not doing this for the grade because I don't really care about the grade at this point. I'm already in college. I'm doing it for you.
Oh.
I've had students say that to me. But as far as, keeping, the really advanced student happy, and if you have a band, then you've got all different levels of musicianship in the same band. My strategy was always to aim at the middle. To aim at the middle as far as the difficulty of the music and what we were doing, and the music was challenging enough and interesting enough that it kept the advanced kids okay. The kids in the middle were loving it and getting better and going to become advanced kids. And the kids on the bottom who were struggling, they could kind of keep up.
Yeah, kind of keep up, yeah.
Yeah, so you had to aim at, for me, my strategy was always to aim at the middle. And every once in a while, you throw in a really challenging piece to really push them for the more advanced kids.
And because as a band director, we each had multiple groups. So those advanced kids or the kids that were maybe more able than other kids, there were other opportunities for them to play, so they could get that someplace else within the same program.
Right.
Or you could feature some students, that were outstanding, and maybe the background for the rest of the group was not quite as challenging, but the featured kids were soloists, so you could kind of cover all the bases that way, and everybody would get a chance to grow and just feel what music meant.
Do you ever have a student that you have, let's say, in a lower grade, maybe in the 7th grade, and they're with you all the way through to the 12th, and you've watched this progression?
All the time.
Yeah, I can imagine
All
that
the
must
time.
be really
You
fascinating.
watch them grow up, not just as musicians, but as people.
Oh, as people, yeah.
Oh, it's really amazing.
To me, that was the most joyful thing about what I did, was being able to witness a kid's growth from maybe 5th grade through being a senior in high school.
Yeah.
And they would come into high school, which is where I worked with them most, but I did work in the middle school. And by the time they would graduate, they were a young adult and they felt like they could tackle the world. But when they first came in, they had no clue what was going on. They were like a deer in the headlights. And to see that process, it's fascinating.
Yep, absolutely.
Especially when it's partially a creative process. The creative process is fascinating to begin with. And so what do you do? Like when you're going to go into a venue that you haven't been at before and they want you to sit down and play, you have a repertoire of songs. Do you have a repertoire? Like, tell me what that is all about. Like, I just don't understand how musicians just sit down and start playing.
Well, it's not that we necessarily just sit down and start playing, although some people do. But we have a book to choose from, and it depends on where we played recently. It depends on what's new in the book. Like the next gig we play, we'll be doing, in the past few we did most of the stuff was from the new album.
Okay.
Because that's fresh and that's something we want to promote. Yeah. But there are also others that we know that audiences love.
The classics.
Yeah, so we'll pull them out to play. And it also depends on who's playing that particular gig. Yeah. If somebody can't make it and we have a sub, we're going to pick music that the sub, we know they can shine on. You try to pick music that's going to fit the musicians that are playing.
Also, as performers, you have to at least somewhat read the audience. So, if you're getting a certain response from a certain thing, you're going to, maybe, you play an up-tempo tune and everybody's really excited. Well, you don't want to play a ballad next. You want to keep that energy going and wait till you break it up, So you read the audience. I mean, that's just kind of a thing you do by feel.
And it's helpful that you both are classically trained. I did look at your bios, and you guys have a lot of foundation under this improvisational creative endeavor. A lot of people don't realize that jazz isn't just hanging out. Although it feels
Far
like
from it.
Far from it. Yeah, it is definitely. There's a discipline to it from what I can see, and I'm impressed. As someone, I like to say, I was conceived to jazz. Dizzy Gillespie in particular, I was told, as a legend goes.
Oh, okay.
So it's all up in here. So I love jazz musicians. I want you guys to come back, okay?
Sure.
Because there's always more to talk about. And I just want to hear more. I really do. I want you guys to come back and follow up on a few things. I have more questions.
Okay.
But, and I thank you both for coming.
Well, thank you for having us.
SlideAttack.
It's a lot of fun.
Yes. Howard Levy and Alan Goidel, jazz musicians extraordinaire, SlideAttack. And it's a quintet. So go to their website, SlideAttack.com, and look at the itinerary, and you'll be able to see when the whole quintet will be together, and also you'll be able to purchase a new album. So thank you so much for joining me here. And
Thank you.
And I'll see you on the radio next.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Great.
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'm going to say goodbye to the audience. I really appreciate it when you come to the show. And I always appreciate it when you give me feedback on what you've heard. You can find me on LinkedIn.com. Mostly, that's where I spend most of my time, but I'm also on the other venues as well. If you really want to get me, go to LinkedIn. Thanks again for coming to the show. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for an
Thank you for
internet
listening to the
talk
Energy
radio
Stars
station
Cafe.
for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are two women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, station manager at PHECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details. Thank you for listening to Passionate World Talk Radio. You can listen to this program all over again by going over to https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. You can also hear it on Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon ALEXA, AMFM247.com every Tuesday evening between 8 and 9 p.m. YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and all the other podcast directories one can find on the internet.